All right, so the way you cut fruit is first, what I was getting at with equipment, you got to have a good knife. I do not want to see the knife that you stole from Outback Steakhouse, that big thing that looks like a shark's teeth, because that rips the fruit. You've got to cut the fruit. You want a good paring knife. We want you to cut a very little bit off the end here, okay? There's also what I call the belly button. You know, this stuff hangs from a tree and there's always the little stem part. You want to get rid of that because no one wants to see that floating around in their drink, right? So it's funny, this is where 90% of my trainers disagree with me. I usually don't do that. I just take a little bit off. I like it better where there's where you don't cut it off. What I don't want you to do is cut like half of it off. I just want a very little bit. And the way we cut fruit, you go right down the middle. Okay, now there's two ways you can do it. I'm going to show you both ways. One, you can go in here like this, and you just go down the middle again, and then you go down the middle again. Okay? So this is one way. And then we slit all our lemons and limes. Okay, because it's some people, it's just a garnish. Okay? The other way to cut it, I'm going to use a different knife here, is you go down this way. This is the way Dave does it. But you got to make sure you're precise on this because you go right down the middle, and then what you do is you're using this to protect your fingers, and you got to go in here, and you do it at an angle, okay? And then you flip it over. Okay, now the big deal is all these were cut nicely. Okay? Okay. All right, these are cut nicely. What doesn't look right is when this white part here is like flat, it means you blew it. Okay? Everything should be pointed, nice and pointed. Now, a lot of people will go like this. They come in here in the middle, and they go the other way. Okay, and then they slice their fruit. Okay, when you do that, then you already have legal. Okay, you got it in there. All right, so you can do it either way. I don't care. Either way is fine. The other thing is that we're going to tell you to do is to do corona cuts. That's just a term PBS uses. So right now, if the way we just cut that, you get 8 cuts out of a lemon or lime, okay? That's a half, okay? That's 8. That's 4 and the other half. So what you want to do, if you want to get 12 cuts, and you want to do this if you're going to have beers, okay? So you can go the same way, and then what you're doing is you're cutting it again. So I like to do those. I don't do it the way I was just doing it before. I like to go in this way because it gets a little too small, and I really want to protect it. Okay, so those are all in there. And I don't slice these because they're actually going in on the top of the beer. Okay, so there's 6 cuts, so I can get 12 out of that. So the reason you would do a Corona cut is one for beers, and the other would be if whoever you're working for is cheap and they don't have. And I shouldn't say that because I got to tell you something. You can get limes anywhere from 10 cents a lime up to 75 cents a lime. So it's a seasonal fruit. So you get in there where it's 75 cents, you might start seeing a guy that's going to say, hey, look, we're going with a smaller cut. Now what I do for twist, you find the biggest piece of fruit because you'll get more cuts out of it. I want to do the same thing. I want to cut off enough on each side. Okay. Now, go in here and cut there. Now what you can do is you use your thumb. Okay, and I use a glove, but you get it started there, and then you just work your way back and forth. Okay, so that's actually a lot faster. You can use a bar spoon, and what you do is you go in between what I call the meat of the fruit. Okay, now watch what I do here. You cut this here, and then what you do is you twist it. And you roll it. I don't care if the seam is, you see that? That's the seam. I don't care if the seam is towards you or away from you. Doesn't matter. As long as the seam is down. That's all that matters. Okay? And then what you also want to do is you want to see how it's kind of off a little bit? You want to make sure that you're starting everything one way. Okay? Because you want to get good, clean cuts.
What you're looking for is to do something over the glass, because what will happen is this is oily, and you will see if you do that over a drink that you can see the top of it, and you look down at it, you'll actually see the oil floating on top, and you'll get the flavor of the lemon.